In this video, we're looking over how to create and edit your pop-up. So when you're in the page editor, you'll find the pop-up button on the top, just up here on the left-hand side. So if you click pop-up, it'll actually bring up what the pop-up looks like. So when you first create this, there'll be nothing on it, right? So you can either start building the pop-up by clicking the add row function here, or you can edit the pop-up settings. So we're going to look at the pop-up settings first before we put the content into the pop-up itself. So the settings here will show you some various style designs and customizations similar to what you've seen in the rest of the editor, but there are a couple of additional options. So you do have a toggle here that you can put on and off to disable the pop-up. So you can just flick that on and then it won't show up regardless of whether or not you've actually set some triggers to fire it. So you can flick it off. We're going to leave it on. You can adjust the width of it. So you'll see this change on the page as I mess with this. So I can change to full page and you can see that adjusts to the full width of now that's a full width of like a tablet, you can imagine. So on portrait mode, that's basically sort of what that will do, but on a wide desktop, it will only show most of the page. Then you go medium and then you can have small, right? So that's just up to you, whatever you want it to do. I'm going to leave it on medium. Show pop-up on exit. What this does is, this is a feature that will work on desktop only, where if a user moves their mouse off the page into the like the URL area or other tabs, basically showing an intent to exit the page, then the pop-up will come up. This is not relevant on mobile because there is no way to establish user intent to leave the page on a mobile. So show pop-up on exit is just a desktop setting. I'm going to leave that on in this case. And then we have our advanced editor here where you can change the styling of how the border looks. So you can say, for example, no border, and you can see the border disappears. Or you can choose various sides, however you want it to go. I'm going to choose to still have the border. I'm going to leave it as solid. I'm going to change the border color in this case to a green here, you can see, and then I can definitely see it. And I'm going to change the radius. I'm actually going to dial it right back to 5 pixels. You can see now it's just a lot thinner there. Right, you can also change the radius of the border. What this means is the curvature of the corners. So you can see now I have a very curved radius, and I can put it back to 0, which will give me a square pop-up. And that's what I'm going to leave on this page here. The radius edge, just to explain how that works, is if I have curved, I can have that apply to the top only, like this, or the bottom only, and you can see this changing on the page here, or you can do all edges there. You can add a shadow effect, either an inner shadow, like that, or an outer shadow which drops onto the page. You can't see that very well here because I've got a black page, but that's effectively what that does. Okay, so that's the general and advanced settings of how the pop-up works. Your padding options, as you can see here, is really about how much space there is around the elements. I'm going to add some elements before I come back and show you how they work. So I'm going to click on add row to this pop-up, and we're going to add a 1-column row, and then we're going to add an element, and you'll see we have all the normal building options just as you would have for the rest of your page to put in on this pop-up. So I'm going to add a headline. Now remember, because my text is set by default to white, I can't see this, so I'm going to change my text color. Like that, and I'm going to put in here, to who and where do we send your ticket? And then I'm going to add a form. So what you can do here is, rather than just insert a custom embed of your form, you can actually embed surveys and calendars and forms directly from your account in the builder options. So we can see here, I can see here form. I can also select form in the right hand here area, and I can choose button or form. I'm going to choose form here. And then what it'll allow me to do is pick a form from my account just here. So I'm going to choose this Plateau Facebook ad form, and then boom, you can see the form just pops in right here. So there are a few things you can do here with this form. You can actually change what happens when the form is submitted. So for example, I can send that form to a URL or to a next step by changing these down here, rather than having to go into the form and change those settings there. You can actually customize what they do based on this page right here. So that's one way you can use a form, and that's sort of all we'll go into depth in terms of building this pop-up. What I'm going to show you now is how the padding options works on the pop-up settings based on the fact that we have content now. So I click my open pop-up settings here to get out of the form settings, and now you can see if I change the padding on top, you can see it's basically adding the padding to those elements. The same thing happens left and right. I'm going to leave these on 20. You can see I can also just adjust the number by typing. And the margin top simply moves the pop-up down the screen, right? So that's literally the margin between the top of the screen and where the pop-up appears. Cool, and then we can check, as always, how our pop-up looks on a mobile as well. And just like every other element of the page editor, you can customize the way that things look on a mobile versus desktop. So I can change the font size on the mobile version, and I can even turn visibility on or off for mobile in the advanced area. I can show things to just be mobile or just be desktop, the reverse of what I just did. So I can show you, I could turn off display on mobile and have it only on desktop, or vice versa. I can have elements show on mobile and not on desktop, right? And that's also covered in the video talking about how to optimize your mobile page. And so the last thing I'll show you on this video is how to actually get the pop-up to appear. We obviously covered the exit intent beforehand. However, what you'll also want to do is we'll want to get out of the pop-up area and have some sort of trigger action for the pop-up. So in this case, we have a button, and this button here, we want to make sure that the settings of that button in our general settings on the actions are set to open the pop-up, right? And so whatever element we have set to open the pop-up, when that's clicked, it will bring up the pop-up and whatever we have built onto it.